session will be recorded, and with all permission, Harsh, we can start this session.
Thank you. Cyber Gurukul. It's that never-ending ambition to become the cybersecurity storyteller and consultants to our stakeholders and community at large. Cyber Gurukul. It's that constant journey to deep dive, to delve deeper into the different aspects of cybersecurity, to map business with technology, to sometimes debate, but definitely explore and have a 360 degrees. Cyber Gurukul. Isn't it a fast growing community today where each one of us, like mentioned, we have a diversified, professionals over here. Each one of us are trying to understand in a solution oriented and productive approach about the constraints and the roles others.
So original source will be X2, right?
Just a second, I'll just mute her. And so I can proudly say that each one of us has a part of Cyber Gurukul in us. Yes, together we are Cyber Gurukul. Together we will engage, actually enable, engage, and empower. A very good evening to one and all present here. I am Harsh Kaur, and it takes a matter of pride for me to welcome all of you today over here, including the core members as well as the extended family of Cyber Gurukul. At this point, I really appreciate it's a Saturday evening, and for a lot of us, it's a quarter end. For someone like me, and I think even Brijesh, it's also a half yearly end. And still, so many of us could make it. I really thank for this. But I'm very confident that with Mr. Brijesh as our esteemed speaker today, we will make the best of this. Let me now also take this wonderful opportunity to introduce Brijesh to the forum and also welcome him. Brijesh, he's an industry veteran with 17 plus years of experience with his major stint in ForcePoint. Yes, it's of course this is a company no one needs introduction, and today he is leading the sales engineering in ForcePoint, and also a trusted advisor to multiple of his enterprise as well as government customers, especially in the area of insider threat, data security, and of course adopting SASE framework, which we'll also talk in detail today. And by the way, were you aware that he's also a frequent speaker in multiple esteemed events like ISMG, IDG, DSCI, and many more? The list continues, but we have limited time, right? So we'll keep that in mind. And, at this point, let me really appreciate Brijesh. He has taken out time from his very hectic schedule for us, graced this platform for us. So Brijesh, thank you again so much. It really, really means to have a thought leader like you join us today. But before we continue, can I have few words from you, please?
Yeah, thanks, Harsh, and I think thanks to Cyber Gurukul team. So I just go back to that time when I got a call from Harsh and she introduced me to this platform and the intent behind this platform. So to my earlier days when I have started into a cyber security or to be into an IT, and I'm coming from a background where my father was a teacher, I always focused on sharing that knowledge, okay, sharing whatever is learning, whether it's between my team now or with the platform. Okay, so the focus is definitely I'll be very happy to sharing whatever I have learned from a SASE point of view, demystifying it, decoding it, and bringing back to you, and definitely understand the objections, the challenges that you see on a daily basis. So I can see that every one of us should go and contribute to this platform, because this platform is purely focusing on sharing a knowledge and then using that knowledge within our day-to-day tasks. So I'm happy to be part of this platform.
Thank you so much, Brijesh. And trust me, we are also very keen and excited to hear what you have to say, because trust me, it is going to take time to actually digest SASE and its learning. And I am really vouching on that, proper start through you. And we'll definitely get into that. But before that, let's set the context together this time instead of just me doing it. So I have this one image for you, and I want to hear out what do you think this image interprets. You can use the chat box. Vijaya, please check that out. And someone wants to speak orally, they can also raise their hands, and let's do this, setting the context a little quicker.
Yeah, chat box is open to all. Please made your point.
Yeah,
in
as
the
soon
chat
as
box.
interpretations start coming, you just share with me, and anyone who wants
Definitely.
to share vocally,
Definitely.
they're most welcome.
It's kind of a storage generation from the older solution to the latest industry, a new generation like cloud. So we can see from the starting from the cloud, it's all how the storage happening and the access is happening from on-prem to cloud. So that is from my end.
Very much. That is definitely bang on.
The evolution of data storage, Jagdishwaran is saying this.
Perfect. You're going in a total right direction. Any more interpretation? Vijay, what do you think this is? Let's hear you also out. And Bridget, you can also please join us if you want.
Say, this is good animation. So set the perspective. So this is evolution of how industries have kept data handling, and the amount of data is increasing. Technology is also increasing in the direction. So it's an evolution of data storage and how we deal with data electronically.
Very much, very much. I think you added one more point to the evolution of the IT devices, including that the data explosion has also been the reason why how we have grown ahead. Very much. Anything else?
Nagaraj said the spread of data.
Spread of data, yes, very much.
There's also a lot of gap. The first four are very close by, but the cloud version is very much far off.
Very much, Rajneet. I think that is also.
See, it's about accessing the data. So it's freely available from the traditional one to the cloud one.
Very much, very much. I think all of you have put some very interesting depictions, and I am sure I'm not going to say something very different, but yeah, I'll still summarize it. Very much, this is the journey of digital transformation from the legacy IT devices to the cloud. Very much it is there. And yes, very much with data becoming the new parameter and with the cloud adoption, we can definitely see that there is a dramatic transformation also in the data and digital landscape. With the power of cloud, we are actually able to access, store, share data anytime, anywhere, any device. And do you see there's also a flavor of human evolution over here, if you see. So that's how cybersecurity, actually anything is. Everything comes from something which is already there day-to-day life, right? So that is also there. And if you see this is the kind of growth we have just seen in last 1 year. Trust me, this is what also cybersecurity has to cover as a gap. But today, that is what we are going to discuss about how SASE will exactly, with the power of cloud, security of cloud, on cloud, and by cloud, make security, kind of scalable to any device, anytime, and anywhere. But before we go forward, I have some questions for you to answer, and so be totally ready for them, because we'll just give 1 minute for 2 questions. And yeah, if you want to keep your Google engine on, so cheating is allowed here. So Vijaya, this is your hint for the next questions to be asked, please.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so you'll have
Yeah,
to.
so this is there on.
No, this is the other one, SASE one.
Sorry, my mistake.
No worries. Vijay is helping us a lot. He has already, leaked the second session also.
But I guess, yeah, so.
You have to take the other one. We'll wait for that.
Yeah.
The polling one. Yes.
So it's live. We have timer on.
Thank you so much, Vijaya. So please, quickly, we have just 1 minute for you. Let us know what you think is the full form of SASE and who coined SASE and when. Let us help quickly, set up the context for Brijesh. Okay, we have started getting the answer. Let's see what are the answers which are coming up. Okay. Let's see. Please, there are only 20 seconds left. Let's quickly answer. At least answer whatever you think could be. I could see new joinees more, so I'm giving 15 more seconds. So 20 seconds to go. What is the full form of SASE and who?
It's the fastest finger first, but correct answer is the price.
Oh. 5 more seconds, we'll then wrap it up. Please quickly.
We are almost reaching 60%, so please.
Quickly. Last 15 seconds. We'll not wait more.
Yes.
Last 8 seconds. 5, 4, 3,
please.
2, 1. It's okay. Let's stop the poll. So yeah, I think a couple of my friends are attentive here, and they really took our advice, Vijaya. Very much. SASE is Secure Access Service Edge, which was introduced in 2019 by Gartner analyst Neil McDonald and Joe Skrupa. I hope I have mentioned it correct, because I'm also in the learning curve over here. And it has been mentioned several times in the 2019 reports also, like networking hype cycle report, market trend reports, and so on and so forth. If I have to talk about SASE, I don't know if it has actually become the religion of cybersecurity, the new religion or not. But the kind of importance it's gaining, the kind of anxiety, the interest, the curiosity we have of how do we adopt this in the PPT, that is people, process, technology framework, or the kind of strategy, that definitely cannot be understated. That cannot be, debated, right? So now let's get into how, what, why of these SASE, and let's decode with the insights of Brijesh. So at this point, Brijesh, over to you. I am really looking forward to what you have to discuss. And just one last thing before I talk about this, let's actually get to know, 1 second, of how from 10%, you're going to get SASE adopted by the enterprises by 2024, 40%, and 60% by 2025. So over to you, Brijesh, now, and I'm really keen to know what you have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Harsh, and I think thanks for bringing that image, which talks about evolving of data and evolving of human, right? Because data will not make any sense till the time it is not used by human. So I'm not saying misused, but to be used. We are saying that it's also getting misused and other set of things. So why SASE? So first of all, yes, the SASE is led in 2019 by Gartner, and the analyst, the Gartner analyst who was part of it, I have a privilege to met him in one of the session in Forcepoint in US. So his name is Neil McDonald. He's the same guy who also written a paper for the CARTA, Continuous Adaptive Risk and Trust Assessment. That's also a framework. So SASE is the framework which talks about Secure Access Service Edge. Okay, so it's a framework, first of all. It's not a compliance, it's not a regulation, it's a framework. But before I get into the SASE piece and introduce and decode a SASE, let me take that old school story, right? I think every one of us and hear out this old school story from the last 2 years, right? At least after the COVID has been hit, because this is mostly used and exploited slide, if I'll say, by each and every cybersecurity expert. Okay, but one thing I really like about this particular slide, and I think Harsh has really beautified it, is based on the different roles that you can see on protecting the crown jewels of this castle. Okay, now what is the castle in our case? Being a CISO, my castle is my organization. Okay, I need to understand where my critical data is, which is a crown jewels to my company, right? For maybe for a manufacturing, their research and development is their crown jewels, right? For BFSI, their customer base is their crown jewels. Okay, so there are different roles that we have seen has been played till this time in the cybersecurity from the last 20 years. So whether we talk about an era which is pure infrastructure centric focus, was purely talking about this, right? We were talking about that we will have a layered approach, a designated, well-defined parameter. We will have what you call as layered approach, well-defined parameters. I'm not able to control it. Harsh, can you help me with this? Okay, thank you. So it's comprised of designated fence and gate, right? So whatever within the castle, within the organization is all good. Whatever is coming from outside needs to be checked, needs to be followed, needs to be covered. So it's easy to segregate what is good, what is bad. But when it's come to the approach which we are talking about now, okay, is totally different than that. And this is not happened in this just last 2 years, right? 2 years definitely has accelerated it, but it started happening within the cybersecurity from the last 4 or 5 years. Okay, so let's understand what has happened in the last 4 or 5 years. So we all understood a digital transformation as a journey, right? But what are the different factors which has taken digital transformation into the cybersecurity area? And we can definitely touch upon different industry tools. The first and the foremost is we have seen is a cloud adoption. Now, cloud has been adopted on a multiple ways. The cloud has been initially adopted as a security as a service or a software as a service, typically where the organization started using Office 365, G Suite. It's a more commercially viable solution. And when you go to the cloud, you will get few benefits, right? You will get elasticity. Okay, you will get better availability. You will get better commercial, right? So these are the few reasons why the cloud has been adopted at the starting stage. Then after that, the people have started using infrastructures. Okay, there are evolution happen, and we were seeing the vendors like Amazon Web Services, Azure Marketplace, and Google Cloud Platforms, and many more, where they were focusing on infrastructure as a service, right? And the people started taking their servers, databases, applications to the cloud. But that is not limited themselves to only infrastructure, because when you are taking your infrastructure, you are also taking your data on the cloud, right? So if I focus from a data perspective, and if we go and talk about the similar image which has mentioned, the data is now in Azure, the data now in AWS, the data is also in Office 365, and this is not only limited to organizations. Let's understand a normal user. Our data is on Instagram, our data is on Dropbox, our data is on Google Drive. So everyone started consuming cloud. And the applications that we are using, like Netflix, it's a pure cloud delivered applications where we are accessing the content services. So two transformations which really happened on a faster pace is cloud adoption and the data. Now, in the last year, we have also seen during the COVID time, roaming workforce, which started a new name, which is WFH, work from home. And this happened for 100% of the workforce. Previous to that, there was also mobility. Okay, so we all understood that mobility has increased over the period of time, right? But this mobility has become 100% when we landed into a COVID situation. And no one has a BCP and a DR for a person, right? As a human, we were all planning for BCP and DR for our data centers. Okay, if DC is down, we will have DR. If we are on a cloud, we will use one availability zone and the other availability zone. But when the users are not reaching out to the organizations, they have to open up. They have to focus on certain things where their business productivity should start. And that's happened with work from home. And we landed into a situation where the roaming workforce is not only limited to their managed machines, people have started taking their desktops, okay, because there was a supply chain issue, right? It has impacted China, and we were exporting most of the parts within the laptops comes from China. So the organization started giving their desktops to their users so that they can start working from home. So now there are different variants of endpoints which existed in the roaming workforce. It was not only managed laptop, it's an unmanaged machine, unmanaged laptops. Some people started working maybe from a mobile. And then there are people who are now settling down, are also accessing the cloud services from the branch locations. So the roaming workforce, which started with work from home, is now work from anywhere. Okay, so your users can be anywhere. So these are the three pillars. So if I'll summarize, what are the three pillars which really accelerated this digital transformation is, first and the foremost is user working from anywhere. So which is edge. So we have to understand that this is an edge which will access the application and the services. Second piece is the data, because everyone understands that data is a new oil, and whatever the business will be run will be with that data, right? And every domain will have their critical data based on intellectual property, based on R&D design, based on the customer data and all that. So first is the edge, second is data, and the third is user who will access it. So if we understand a SASE as a framework which typically led by Gartner to resolve the digital transformation problem across these three areas. So across edge, what connectivity we will use to access the data and a cloud application, how the data will be transferred, and data anyhow needs to be in a secure state. We all understand in cyber security, whether the data in motion, data in use, or data at rest, it needs to be in a secure state. So same is applicable if we are moving to the cloud. And the third is user, because till this time we were focusing on the user which is inside is good, user which is outside is bad. And then we landed into bring your own device, and there are so many variants happens in the cyber security. We hit by multiple insider threat data breaches, and we started focusing on user, on a user behavioral language. But now user working from home also want more focus, because your borders has gone, you are completely in a borderless world from a cyber security. So you need to monitor your users continuously. And we will definitely talk about framework like SCADA, Zero Trust and all. And that's the reason that this SASE has been collided with the Zero Trust. Okay, so please feel free to bring any questions over the chat box. Okay, but as I led the digital transformation, and as I mentioned, the SASE is the framework which talks about secure access service edge, talking about the convergence of your network connectivity and the security. So typically convergence between your edge, data, and the user. And we will decode the SASE in the further slides. But before that, this is what Brijesh has mentioned back to you, or the Cyber Gurukul team has mentioned back to you. But let's understand your challenges, on ground your challenges, which you face while adopting any framework like SASE for your organization. So with that, I'll request Vijay to bring that polling question. So Vijay, yeah, thanks. So this polling question will help us to understand that what are the biggest challenges that we can see in SASE. The first and the foremost, which I think most of the regulatory industry is focusing on, is that added burden because of compliance and audit, is that balancing issue that we are seeing between productivity and security. Is it highly complex with hybrid ecosystem, right? Very true. Everyone is not gone to cloud yet. And still the cyber security as an industry may not settle down to 100% cloud, maybe next 3-4 years as well. And you can mention any other. So let's take next 20 seconds and then we can close this poll and see the results.
Yeah, so request participants, please participate in this. There is nothing right or wrong. We are learning.
Yeah. And just bring anything which you see as other, mention as a chat box. We really want to understand those challenges. Maybe next 10 seconds more. So will we get 75% marks in this? I think we're still on 65%. Okay, so can we have a results, Vijay, on this? Okay, so the 50% says that it's heightened complexity within hybrid. Okay, and I think it's a really valid point. And I must say that you all, whenever get a time, read a Gartner document, because they specifically mentioned this hybrid piece is a part of a SaaS, right? So I'll cover it, piece of it. 42% says that it's a constant battle, right? We into a cyber security, I think we are in a constant battle where the productivity and the security is the challenge. Okay, and I think 29% says compliance and audit, but definitely compliance and audit will become a bigger piece down the line. So let understand the art of balancing. So let me take the one of the point, which is art of a balancing, right? So when we start with the cyber security, the IT is always factored as the cost to the company. But can anyone tell me what has happened in the last 2 years? And I think with the COVID, at least the CEO of a companies understood the value of a CTO or a CISO in an organization. So security is not more an IT discussion now. It's a business discussion. Okay, and this is all I'm understanding while interacting with multiple CISOs, that now they are discussing with the business team in the last 2 years that how to bring that productivity, how we can focus on and do it from a productivity perspective. So definitely the art of balancing, we need to be focused on from a productivity and a security. And we always say that cyber security needs to be seeded, needs to be discussed as a business enabler into the system. Okay, so the problem which we have seen in the digital transformation piece, if we go with still that old school story, castle story, where most of the applications are on the cloud, the data is on the cloud, and still we are saying, Brijesh, to connect to the organization data center and access something which is over the cloud. Now, will it bring security? Absolutely yes, because we are using the same exit points. We are saying for exit from ABC company, you have to exit from the data center on which you have an internet firewall layer or the any parameter device, and through you have to exit every time when you have to access Office 365. Now this may be true till this time when your all users are within the office. But when you landed into a situation where your users are working from home or working from anywhere, then this model do not work. Because if you're taking a data over a VPN and then accessing it to the central location, you will definitely impact the user productivity, user experience. Because you are consuming VPN tunnel, which is over an IPsec. So from a technical person, we all understand IPsec do an overload. And then you are exiting, consuming the bandwidth of your location, and then connecting it back. It will also consume your bandwidth. Okay, and then definitely the reverse traffic also needs to go from a similar path. So the focus is moved from traditional model to what we heard is direct to cloud. So those applications that we have to access needs to go to the direct to cloud. So direct to cloud is the principle which has been laid down in the cybersecurity before the SASE, to be very frank. So if we focus it from a direct to cloud perspective, if we focus it from the SASE perspective, the SASE says that you can have multiple technologies which will be converged over the cloud, and then for protecting your applications which are already on the cloud, protecting your data which is already on a cloud, protecting your users which are converging and connecting to the cloud, will be done by a cloud service based model. And you don't need to focus on a separate technologies, separate evaluations perspective, that I have to evaluate network security, I have to evaluate cloud security and all that. So SASE focused on that perspective. Okay, so now if we go deeper into this, okay, and let decode a SASE one by one. So as I mentioned, the SASE is security of cloud, on cloud, by cloud. But as it's a framework, it's not mandatory that you stitch everything which is all cloud delivered. It can be hybrid. And Gartner says that. Gartner says in the next 3 years till 2024, 40% of the bigger enterprise organizations which are adopting cloud will move to this SASE platform. Now, this SASE platform is not fixed. It may be different for each and every organization. It is laid down differently by each and every vendor. And when you are going and evaluating a SASE, evaluate as a common owner, both from a network and security. If you evaluate it from a network angle, you will focus it only on connectivity. You will focus on only technologies related to firewall, related to SD-WAN and all. You will miss the security piece of it. And if you think only from a security piece of it, you will miss the connectivity. You may miss the user experience because your core will be security. So the SASE convergence has been segregated into two pieces. How you connect. So the connect is an edge perspective. How you connect. So whether I want to connect from a user machine, so maybe a small agent or small endpoint, an EXE running in my machine will redirect my traffic back to the platform. That's a one way. And you can use a different technologies within that, whether you will use some networking vendors, whether you use SD-WAN. So SD-WAN is definitely an entire different technology, which not only focusing on network, but also focusing on QoS optimization, load balancing, aggregations, and so many things. So the first and the foremost thing is connecting. So you can connect to a machine by an agent. You can connect a branch by a GRE or an IPsec. You can use different technologies, different terminologies to take that traffic from a user machine to the cloud. Okay, so that traffic can be an internet traffic. That traffic can be an Office 365 traffic. That traffic can be a SAP traffic. So that can be any cloud application, which is your public cloud application, which you have procured from Office 365, or it can be a private application as well. And I will also tell you how you go and focus on private application. So the second is network security as a service. So when you connect, you want secure, and you want the security state across the three different ways where you connect to a data. So you make sure while you connecting and using data in transit, where you are taking a file from a SharePoint to your machine, this connectivity needs to be secure. Okay. Then the data which is residing in SharePoint also needs to be secure. It should not be shared with all. I'm just giving you an example. Okay. So the different technologies which you help in security as a service start from a web security, which is your internet security. So the people are focusing on, okay, I have an internet, I want to secure that internet, so I will go with the web security. Okay, we all are using it, web security, maybe from an on-premise perspective or from a hybrid perspective, and some may go into a cloud. Network security, we all understand firewall, right? We are using it from so many years, firewall, IPS, WAF, and all that product. Now, from a network security, we also focus on that when we are connecting to our workloads, when we are connecting to our application in Azure AWS, that should also be secure on connectivity. That should also be secure on intrusion prevention. So that technology should also be a piece of it. Then for securing your cloud application, whether you want to secure the data within a cloud application, whether you want to secure activity of users within the cloud application, whether you want to give a different access level to different user based on the different attributes. So for example, Brijesh, at this time, a employee of ForcePoint may not get a similar access when he's using his machine, which is provided by ForcePoint, or maybe any third-party machine. So based on his attribute, based on his location, we will trust Brijesh. So here we are also focusing and touching about something which is related to zero trust, right? Zero trust is a bigger thing. Zero trust is designed on multiple principles. But the only factor of zero trust which stitch into a SASE is zero trust network access. When you are giving an access to a network, you will explicit trust that individual every time. So if Brijesh is an employee of ABC company, it doesn't mean that Brijesh will have an access to an application by default. It definitely goes into limited access privilege, need to know principle, which we have all understood in cybersecurity. So explicit trust goes into a same principle, limited access. Give an access to Brijesh, which is required for his daily official work. If he requires anything more than that, he should be explicit trusted, and then you focus on identity and context. So one of the most important part of SASE is identity and context. So if you are not building an identity, if you are moved to a cloud and still you are not focusing from a single sign-on perspective, you may not be able to build a good SASE. So identity is important. And then once you have an identity and you are logging the details of your individuals, then building a context is also important. Okay. Now there are multiple technologies, there are multiple factors from which the SASE has been provided, right? And the SASE as a platform talk about all these technologies. Okay. So it's not saying that you need to have separate connection for your firewall and a separate connection for your VPN or maybe for your CASB. Platform talks about a single connection will be used and traversed across these technologies to give you a protection. That's the intent behind of focusing on a platform. But at this stage, where every vendor is talking about SASE in their own piece. So there are 5-6 vendors. I'll give you a detail. There are 5-6 vendors which are really into a SASE piece. One vendors which purely focusing and leading this market from a web security perspective. They say we are a web security player. So focus the SASE from an internet security and then build the different technologies based on that. Some of the vendors focus it purely from a CASB. So they say you are using cloud applications, start focusing on protecting your cloud applications, and then leverage these technologies, bring firewall as a service, bring web security, bring data security, and talk about it. Vendors which are coming from a network security, focusing it more from firewall on an SD-WAN perspective, saying give a connectivity, give an access, and then use this model. Okay, and the fourth one, which are focusing on this market more from WAN optimization perspective or from an SD-WAN perspective, or maybe players which are providing the platforms like Microsoft, like Oracle, like G Suite. Okay, so they are also targeting SASE. So my intent is, don't get confused. Understand which is applicable to you, which industry you belong to, whether your industries focus more from a regulation, whether your organization focusing more from a data perspective, more from an access perspective. Will your business will run if you provide a limited access? Will a business will run where you want an open access? So based on that you can do. But it's a journey. Rome is not built in a day, and similar SASE is not built in a day. Every OEM, every vendor is in this race, in this journey. And as a customer, you can onboard in this journey on different platforms. So if you are focusing from an edge perspective, if you think that onboarding your employee, onboarding your connectivities is important, and you want to start from an access control perspective, start with maybe a cloud web layer, cloud proxy. Start with firewall as a service. Start with zero trust network access, which will typically go and replace VPN over the period of time. Because in a VPN, whenever you go and connect, you will be a part of a network. In ZTNA, it's talk about micro segmentation. It's talk about segregating your network plane and your data plane. Okay, so it's more secure. If you are not very much focused from an edge perspective, you already have some layer of an access, and you really want to focus it from a data and application perspective, then focus on complete data controls. See what type of a data stored where, and then talk about a single data security convergence factor. Focus on your workloads which are on Azure and AWS from a visibility and control. And same for our cloud from Casdrive. Okay. And I'll give you an example here. The customer which I am interacting with, the customers which purely focusing and they are into a consulting background, they are into ITIS background, they want more flexibility. Okay, they want to create a balance between their access and data. Okay, so they target a SASE more from an edge and data perspective. For a company which is more restrictive into BFSI, into manufacturing, or into very close, where the people have not more gone onto a cloud, they stitch to an hybrid model. That if my user is out, there should be an agent on his machine which should provide a security end to end. If I'm using certain cloud application, I will access control it and allow it only within the banking networks, and I will not access it outside. Okay, and then once you mature it over the data and edge, and you have onboarded on that layer, the third layer, which really is important, is user. Focus in on monitoring user. Focus on zero trust factor of the users, and focus it on adaptive in nature. So SASE also says the same thing. It says when you integrate identity, when you build a context, when you provided a security, the security should be adaptive in nature. It should not be static, because risk change over the period of time. And it goes on to a same principle of Kata. So I will say you go and read about a Kata, but just to give a one or two liner of it, Kata is a continuous adaptive risk and trust assessment. Two constant variable in a cyber security, which is risk and trust. Risk of data, trust of users needs to be constantly evaluated. For risk, we always do vulnerability assessment. But do we do anything for user vulnerability? We don't do. Every organization do not do. So bring that Kata principles when you go and adopt. So choose a vendor which should also focus it on all these three layers. Check individual layers. See what he's providing in edge connectivity, what he's providing on data control, what he's providing on user monitoring. And then that will be a best fit for you as per your organization. Now I'll touch on a compliance. Compliance definitely go in a bigger piece, and we may need another 2-3 hours to discuss only on a compliance. But when you talk about compliance, when you focus it from a cloud perspective, the cloud is segregated into 3 layers. If we all see an architecture, the cloud is exit gateways, cloud is data plane, cloud is management plane. See the vendors which are talking about these 3 different layers. So being into a service, everyone will share it, right? It's a multi-tenant model. It will not be a model which will be used only for you. But see their exit gateways, see their data planes, and see their management plane. So if you are a highly regulated company, okay, which needs to talk about a data localization, because data localization is not a compliance driven piece, it's a guideline. Okay, so as per RBI, there's a guideline for BFSI to have a data localization, but it's not a compliance. So either you take and store your local data and ask the vendors that you should have a local data storage within India, or you will say, give me a regulation, give me a compliance that you are following GDPR, or maybe you are following ISO 27001, or you are following ISO 27018. What is your CSS star rating? So focus on that factors when you stitch on a compliance. But as I mentioned, focus on their exit gateways, focus on the data planes, focus on the management planes. Most of the SaaS vendors will always have their management plane outside India, not possible. Definitely with so many digital transformation coming in India, I must say that most of the vendors down the line will definitely have their all the planes in India. And if we hit by our data privacy law in the end of this year or the next year, we will definitely have all the things within the India from a data localization. But after 3 years of GDPR in 2021, the GDPR also denied the fact of a data localization. GDPR don't say as data localization. So we have to understand the compliances, the regulations, and as I mentioned, SASE is a framework. It's not a regulation, it's not a compliance. So you can adopt it based on your requirement. So with that, I'll maybe open up and take certain questions from a Cyber Gurukul team to understand what they see in the market, because they touch base with multiple CISO, CIO. So let's understand what they see are the major challenges and major objections while they interact with their customers.
Thank you, Brijesh. This definitely, we have a lot of key takeaways to take from this, and we'll definitely take it up a little later. First, let's have a look at if there are any questions in the chat box. Otherwise, the Cyber Gurukul team.
None so far. So participants, if you have some queries, additional comments, you can use chat box and place for Brijesh. I will help to raise this to Harsh and Brijesh.
Sure. So what
meanwhile, Harsh, you take it.
Yeah, sure, Vijaya. So what we have done this time, everyone, is that the Cyber Gurukul team together has come up with some questions that we want Brijesh to answer. Of course, he has covered quite a bit, but yeah, maybe a little more in this. And whenever we come up to specific areas, what you can do is, if you have any specific pain point or use case that you want to discuss at that point, anyone is open to do it. So the first question is, in fact, from my own side, and this is not from an organization perspective. I think this is at an individual level as a professional. What do you think, Brijesh, should be the step-by-step learning process of actually digesting SASE? Because as one of my friends in our warm-up session mentioned, Prince, that this is a learning curve for all of us. It's not like an everyday jargon as well for us. So what are your suggestions in these terms, Brijesh?
So maybe I'll share my experience, because what you are asking is the same question which I asked to myself when I learned it typically on the last year or so. Okay, so the SASE is definitely come as a platform, and whenever something come as a platform, which we have seen a cloud, it's always a black box, right? So it's very difficult to understand the do's and don'ts of those black box, right? So the first and the foremost thing is understand that it's a framework. There is an intent of behind why this framework needs to be put in a market to be drive the next 10 years of cybersecurity. Okay, and we all know Gartner is very good in doing that, right? We all are doing our jobs based on those cybersecurity, you can say, foundations led by Gartner. So this is on the same ground, right? So the challenge was that there were so many technologies, so many things, and technologies do not talk. In the last 5-6 years, we have seen the breaches, and that has led to this particular platform. Okay, so understand this platform, one, from different technologies that you can onboard. Understand this platform from the 3 layers which typically run a business at this time. If I have a user working from anywhere, how he will connect to an application, which I'll say edge connectivity. And that's why its name is Secure Access Service Edge. Okay, so it's talk about an edge, and you will see over the period of time, the vendors will started talking about smart edge, work from home edge, work from anywhere edge. You will see these new terms coming over the period of time. Second, understand that irrespective of the framework, if you have to run your business, you need to secure your data. So how your data security policy, which maybe you are working in the last 5-6 years in your organization, should not go zero. There should be, if you have done a step 1, a SASE should help you in step 2. Okay, so bring the data pointed to very critical point, because if you are focusing only on access, then adopting a SASE will not yield anything to you. And the third is bring as much as possible the context from this platform. So understand it from these 3 layers, and then slightly peel each layer of an onion, okay, with a caution, so that you will not have an tears at the end. So that's the point.
I think that was actually a practical approach to how we can step by step learn SASE. Before I go to the second question, I just got curious in between. Brijesh, in the start, you mentioned you had this wonderful opportunity to interact with Mr. Neil, who's the Gartner analyst who has brought this SASE framework. What is it that you asked him? Because you mentioned it now, so I just...
At that time, he was not presented as the SASE. He was yet to launch that white paper, and he presented us the CARTA, which is Risk and Adaptive Trust. And he, being an analyst, the focus was always there. And I think this is not the right platform where I will say from a Forcepoint perspective, but the focus which we were also focusing in this industry from the last 5-10 years is that user and data are your 2 constant in cybersecurity. Till this time, I think we all understand that cybersecurity has only 2 focus areas, user and data. But still, we spent a lot on access control. And we have seen the breaches that happened with so many access controls as well. Okay, so what Neil mentioned during that time is that this framework, which is purely relying on risk and trust, will drive the industries over the period of time. And we have seen that after a year, he also launched SASE, which is also on 2 things, identity and context. So identity, which leads to user, and context, which leads to risk. Okay, so by either way or any way, I think we have to focus on risk and trust, and then definitely edge plays a major role at this time with the COVID situation. So we are focusing on edge. So whenever you think, evaluate, discuss, think on these 3 principles, I think I use very effectively when I go and learn any technology, anything, how it's helping me in at this era, which edge connectivity with data control and the user context. I think that's the key that I use on daily basis.
Great, Brijesh, you're definitely, the stepping stone for all of us in this journey of SASE. And my next question, Vijay, can you put it? this is just a continuation to the first question. Of course, you've covered quite a bit on the do's and don'ts. But what do you think? Do we have to unlearn few things to adopt SASE? Like you did mention that we have to do the first step, and SASE will accelerate the second step. But maybe focusing again on the do's, the don'ts, the myths, and how we can decode SASE and have that kind of an digest the adoption step by step in the organization. And friends, please, if any industry specific or any specific discussion any wants to bring over here, we can add on to this question before Brijesh can actually answer this. So do we have anything more in this area where anyone wants to get some specific area use case to be covered?
Yes, sir. Srinivas here. I'll just add. So instead of giving a overview on adapting a SASE, so I am facing an issue. So because why did my gap assessment, initial gap assessment with my network access control? So we are depending on switching, routing, firewall, and proxies to provide access control. So it's kind of traditional network model we are following it. So how it going to adapt with our SASE, how to approach it? So that is the way you can take it as an example, how to adapt this SASE to my access control, the network access control related, the environment, you can say.
So I think till this time, when we are focusing it on a network layer, the network access control started with the point as a technology which focus that whenever I am a part of a network, there should be some checks needs to be done on my asset before I get a connectivity. Okay, that's the typical network access control philosophy behind putting any technology to it.
Exactly.
Now, is that correct, Srinivas?
Yes, exactly. That is what we are in our ground actually.
Yeah, but now let's take it an example both from inside and outside. Okay, because we all know that we all be in the next 4 or 5 years in some hybrid journey, right? Where we have some things for cloud and something on-premise. So from an on-premise, the network access control has been renamed, or you will say the focus will be more on posture management or security posture management, right? So if Brijesh is doing something where the activities are suspicious, I will control certain accesses from Brijesh. Okay, it may start from simple technology like I will check Brijesh working from anywhere. I will check in his machines A, B, C. I will check antivirus, I will check EDR, I will check DLP, I will check ABCD. That's a very simple to do. I think most of the network firewall vendors, most of the web security vendors, and any vendors over the cloud with an access control technologies will be able to do it. Very easy to do. But that doesn't mean that Brijesh, if it's connected, proven, connected with the good machine, will not pose a risk. So level 1 is I will do checks. Everything good on his machine, I will grant him an access. That's the first layer of network access. The second is I will also check what Brijesh is doing over the period of time. So I will monitor Brijesh on the last 10 access URLs. I will monitor Brijesh on the 10 access cloud applications, whether those are sanctioned, unsanctioned, maybe shadow IT risk to unfold shadow IT risk. I will also check what are the data that he transacted, downloaded, uploaded, shared and all. And then based on these different parameters, I will create a risk of Brijesh. I will create a profiling of Brijesh. And then based on that posture, I will also allow and revoke certain controls to Brijesh. So the access control is going on this layer when we are talking about anywhere access. And if he's in the office, still for a network connectivity, you can use the layer 1, but the layer 2 will not limit it to a network. It will goes on an application layer. So overall, network access control will goes into a layer which stops them to connect to a specific network. It will also come into a micro segmentation also come into point of a zero trust network access, where a user will not be a part of your network. A user will be a part of some other network, but access your applications. So that's also one area where the SASE needs to be adopted as a part of replacing your legacy VPNs. Okay. So these are the few things, Srinivas, which I have to bring back.
Oh, okay. So adding to this, we have a remote user, which we are doing it as a part of VPN connectivity. So adding, as you mentioned, we are also focusing on the zero trust, and we are segregating from the network. So providing the access to the remote users. So that is the way we are planning actually. But in the ground reality, what happened, we have directly given a VPN activity through SSL and TLS network. So we are planning to migrate in such a way to align with all the users in the segregated network to provide the specific access to the end users. That is what we are
Absolutely.
planning. That will be
yeah. So in a cyber security, I think if we have studied and see that there is a mapping table that you will create for a subject and object, right? Access control mapping table. So if Brijesh is a subject and he has to access a SharePoint, then you will create a mapping table what type of a level of access he should get. So the ZTNA vendors, zero trust network access vendors, goes on to a same principle. They bring all the objects, which in this case are your applications, to their platform. They bring your users, which are subjects, to their platform as a users. And then they create a control matrix between these three, these two pieces, and they bring the least privilege principle, need to know principle, to focus on only limited access needs to be given to a person for his specific piece, and definitely he will be into a different segment from an admin or a normal user or a DB. Okay, because in a VPN, all connected to a single segment, right? So that's how a zero trust network access is all about.
Great. Thanks, Brijesh.
Thanks, Srinivasan. I think you really helped us go into a very specific area and get that addressed. Do we have any more, queries in this section before we go to the next question? You just see the chat box. Otherwise, we'll go to the next one.
No questions so far, so you can proceed.
No worries. Okay. So the next thing, Brijesh, you did cover quite a bit discussing on also the principles of zero trust. You mentioned in between of how SASE and zero trust, maybe they together are, talked about as zero trust network access. But, these two buzzwords have come into action almost at the same time. And we are, trying to understand both these frameworks or, the kind of foundation they are and how we actually have to adapt them. So what are the areas where common areas where SASE and zero trust can be considered together? Where are the areas where you have to think about it separately, get it adopted? So maybe in these lines, we would, like to understand more.
So I think zero trust is led as a principle by NIST also. Okay, so I think 800 something, I'm not able to recollect the name, but there are 7 principles of zero trust, which is also led by NIST. The Forrester also have a white paper which talk about zero trust architecture. So zero trust architecture is a bigger space which fits into not only security, it also fits into identity and access management. It's also fit into your physical security. It's also fit into your vendor management. So there are multiple principles of zero trust which you can go and adopt. So the major base of a zero trust is that you have to move from an implicit trust to an explicit trust, irrespective of the security piece which you are touching upon. The one of the major thing where they go and integrate the zero trust and the SASE is, as I mentioned, is a network access. So for the SASE, while you provisioning a network access to an application, you bring a zero trust principle. So you focus on explicit trusting that user, maybe by a multi-factor authentication, maybe by some other authentication factors. so that identity will be proved, because you don't have any other variable to prove that he's Brijesh, because you are not in office, so you're not in specific land segment or IP address to trust that. And once Brijesh has been connected, okay, you will also monitor Brijesh, because maybe Brijesh machine is accessed by something. But when you bring multi-factor authentication, it's a very rare chance, right? So zero trust in a bigger piece cover multiple areas. So if you read a zero trust perspective, it is there on identity, it's there on network, it's there on server, it's there on cloud. There are bigger pieces of it. So in a SASE, just focus of zero trust from a ZTNA perspective. And that's where the people confuse, right? People says, okay, I want a zero trust architecture. Okay. And we say, what you need? I need SASE. So SASE is not only a zero trust architecture. In a SASE, the ZTNA, zero trust network access, is the only fitment of a zero trust architecture. Or the other fitment is a common principle which is driving SASE and zero trust, is adaptive protection. So fourth principle of zero trust in NIST talk about that your policies needs to be dynamically adjusted. That's zero trust principle. And same principle is used in SASE. And these both principles are driven by CARTA as a framework, because CARTA also talk about adaptive. So adaptive piece is bringing the explicit trust. If I'll sum up this. So if you say your technology is adaptive in nature, your policies are adaptive in nature, it can work based on the risk, then you are touching a zero trust factor within a SASE. I hope I have not confused with so many terms. But that's how.
Not at all. I just wanted.
That is
Vijay,
how
this
we will
is-
step by step digest both these buzzwords in action, right? So I think
Actually, no questions so far.
quite a
So I
bit
just
clarity.
wanted
Please.
hers, Vijay's, this payment industry in particular, they are into zero trust and highly regulated. They have been PCI, ISO already burdened, and then GDPR and local data protections are there. So as you said at the beginning, I take some leap out of it that security is now not a CISO word; it's a management and approach. But management also focus on time for go to market. So SASE is anyway complement the trust and security and go to market. So how we can understand that it is going to help my business if I need to explain.
That what you have asked, Vijay, also includes our next question. So just put that and we can have Brijesh also answer this. Just in add on to what Vijaya has said,
Okay.
the role of identity and context and a little more on privacy and regulations, Brijesh. So over to you.
So let's understand that why Netflix is so successful. So Vijay, if I'll ask you why Netflix is so successful, let's understand.
They understood the user's mind. In my perspective, what users were required, they have extended.
So
easily.
they have taken a content and they have hosting that content to the cloud. So
how
that
they are delivering the content, I think. How they are delivering the content. That is what they are achieving.
Absolutely. So they have leveraged the scalability of the cloud, the flexibility, elasticity of the cloud in delivering their content, which is so much heavy content, your videos, your HDs, in bringing their business. Now, if their CEOs think that why I want to do on a cloud, why I not use some other platform, and if they have not thought from a cloud perspective, from a security perspective, then we will not see Netflix as a differentiator in the market, right? So the same is applicable to a customer. I'll give you a real example. I have a customer in AMPAC, okay, which is into BFSI, and definitely PCI, DSS, and all set of regulations are required from them. Now they are using a banking application which is used over the mobile or over a laptop and all. Now, what they have done is they have taken that application on the cloud, right? They have taken an interface that on a cloud because they want elastic, and day by day, every time their users are increasing, right? And that will similar going to happen in BFSI in India, because we have seen the mergers of banking, right? We have seen PNB Bank, OBC Bank, UBI Bank merged, right? So we also focus. So when you are at a bigger scale, highly distributed, okay, you need one convergence point. Where that convergence point is. Till this time, for an application and database, that convergence point was cloud. At this time, when we are talking about network and security convergence, we are talking about platform. So that customer of us, banking customer, was giving a banking application to all the users. He used that as an application and then bring security. Now the challenge is, if you are bringing an architecture at level 1 and bringing a security in a level 2, it will not be effective, because the security is not stitched at the design of the architecture. And that is a problem. We all see it. And that's why we are focusing on now only DevOps. We are talking about DevSecOps. We are bringing security into a design. And that's not limited to your product designing and all. So this banking customer, when moved to the cloud, he also factored that when my user will connect that application to the cloud, I want to enable a multi-factor, which we are already seeing in a banking. And I want to bring this application behind a platform, which is a cloud application security platform. So he has not moved to SASE completely. He started with CASB. And that helped him from a banking perspective, entertaining multiple customers with the best of the breed security. And if you as a customer will see a bank A and a bank B, and a bank B will have a better security, you will always go and open your account with the bank B, because you are getting a better security for your crown jewels. Okay, so this is an example of how a security can bring a business productivity and a better business strategies for a business. And that's the reason now CISO is participating in the board discussions. Is that answer your question, Vijay?
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks a lot. You explain it in details.
Thank you. We are also open to have any more questions if there are any. Vijay, can you just check out? We can.
I guess there are so many questions, so people want to do homework and then they will put it. I guess post session we will get.
I have given all the answers and we can ask a question.
That maybe
Yes, Brijesh.
So we are on time. If participants, you can ask. You may ask some questions using chat box.
Or maybe rather also add on any input if you have. All right. So let me do one thing. Let me summarize. There have been so many key takeaways, but I have noted few, and I will be happy to share that now. So first of all, again, thank you everyone for joining us. It's a Saturday evening. You're there with us, and I have proven with Brijesh that we have made the best of your time. So thank you, Brijesh. I think we actually could, have a step-by-step approach of decoding SASE, demystifying it, and there were so many myths that also got covered, kind of unraveling them today. We actually did what we had come for. I would totally second on your thoughts that cybersecurity actually today has become a business enabler. In fact, it is also part of course, multi-domain discussions, whether it could be even related to business continuity plans, or it could be even related to automation discussions, or any other which I may miss out. And of course, because this session was on SASE, as again mentioned, SASE is a journey. It's, of course, learning curve for all. It's not an everyday jargon. And we all are, on this learning curve of understanding SASE. Of course, the factors that had accelerated the journey of digital transformation are the three pillars of SASE also, which needs to be focused on. And that is, of course, the cloud adoption, data becoming the new parameter, and the roaming users. We then also had some, step-by-step unraveling the myths of SASE, which were, initially seen as challenges of how actually SASE is not increasing the complexity, but it is actually going to simplify it, of how it is actually converging the technologies in terms of cloud, security, and network. We also realize it is actually going to complement, and it is a neutral framework and not a regulation compliance, which will become a burden for us. Of course, the focus would be on user, data, and edge. That is what is required. Rest is going to be customized to the business requirement and as per as the security posture management that needs to be brought in. We also had quite a deep dive on how the art of balancing can be done for the business security and productivity, which is also a constant battle and one of the kind of burning questions that we had in mind, trying to understand SASE. So yes, SASE definitely is a comprehensive security framework, and that could include any form of data ad creation, motion, rest. And I think, and as per Brijesh, definitely continuous risk assessment, role of identity and access, and context aware technologies will be definitely critical for SASE and adoption. We also had quite a bit of detailed discussion on do's and don'ts and the evaluation criteria for SASE. We could also take out time to understand a bit more on SASE versus and SASE and zero trust, trying to understand that zero trust is much bigger concept, including not only cybersecurity, but multiple more principles, physical security, vendor management, identity and access, and so on and so forth, and how they're also converging in the ZTNA, zero trust network access. That is where the zero trust principle is actually being followed. So we had some discussion on the MFA piece also over here. And then we also had some questions and some use cases discussed, a deep dive on step-by-step, learning SASE, adoption on do's and don'ts. We had some discussion on privacy and regulations, role of identity and context, and how actually customers are also selecting the organization, whether it be with the power of the cloud like Netflix example, or the banks in terms of the security. We are definitely keeping this as a criteria while selecting being as a customer. And let me also at this point thank the wonderful participation that Srinivasan, Jagdishwaran, Rajneet, and Vijaya has brought during the session. And if I've forgotten anyone who had specifically been interactive, I'm sorry, but yeah. With this, I think we are end of the session, and we've shot by 3 more minutes, but I think it was a wonderful session and all the worth it. Brijesh, today actually I've learned so much on SASE, and I'm going to keep bothering you, and I'm sure a lot of us are going to. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, CyberGuru. I think it was really nice because this platform is really required for everyone to demystify every new thing which is coming into a market. I think it's important as a cybersecurity experts to demystify it for all the cybersecurity professionals, so that they can adopt it as is, rather than different flavors of each and every vendors associated. So thanks for.
Thank you, Brijesh. And we do applaud the passion you had and the time you have taken out to give back to the community like this. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Again.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks
Vijaya. Thank you, Srinivasan.
Thanks, everyone.
Full
Thanks.
members as well as the extended family. Thank you.